Welcome to the Haven Community Conversations podcast, where we have real conversations about faith, life, and everything in between. And today I'm here with my good friend Justin, who has been a part of the Haven for, I was thinking earlier today, 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
Has it been about 10
Yeah.
years? Yeah, because it was right before we came into Old Town Spring, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Or right when we came to Old Town
right.
Spring.
Well, that whole transition was going down.
Yeah. What brought you here, man?
So a good friend of mine at another church, excuse me, a good friend of mine at another church who was also, we had what we called house church there. Kind of like here we do the growth groups,
yeah.
kind of similar. And he was our house church pastor, and a beautiful friendship grew out of that. He ended up here, kept inviting me to come.
Yeah.
At first, I was apprehensive. I really liked my church I was at, and I came and I never left.
Yeah, that's a good church. It's a big church, but for a big church. I like big churches, but I do like Church Project. That's where it was, right?
We were at Church Project when they were still in the old Kroger on Sawdust.
In my opinion, if you're going to do big church, that's the way to do it. But man, I'm glad you're here. You came shortly, so because Doug came over here and he pastored with me for a while, but you were right on his tails, right? Mm-hmm. Not too long after he started coming here. So you like everything from motorcycles to turtles.
Yeah, I've got a lot of interests and a lot of hobbies. Motorcycles and turtles and tortoises are up there near the top.
You garden?
I do.
Did I hear that?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite hobby? You got alligators too, right?
I did. I no longer keep alligators.
Got too big?
Yeah, they got too big, and they were actually caiman, which are a crocodilian species native to South and Central America. So they consequently, even in the southern part of the United States, they don't do as well because we do have a touch of winter. Even though it's smaller than your northern climates, it's still more extreme than they can handle. As far as the motorcycles, I've recently made the decision to actually get out of motorcycles.
Wow.
Over the last couple weeks, I've sold my motorcycle. I had a hydraulic motorcycle lift in my garage. I got rid of that, as well as some other things. I turned 45 in August. Mm-hmm. I've got 5 sons, the youngest of which being 4 years old. I guess I just reached a place in my life. And it's not that I've been naive or ignorant to the dangers of riding motorcycles in Houston streets. I've just come to the realization that, I've been down, I've crashed motorcycles, I've been injured. It's just time to count my blessings, and thankfully everything on me works correctly. Let's call it good and get out of it.
Is it kind of sobering when your son...
You know what? So that was actually the biggest thing is I've had friends injured, died, I've carried caskets, and all of that stuff, it did take a toll on me. It did hurt my heart, but nothing's like something so close like your son pulling up to the scene of an accident and seeing a motorcycle in 10 parts. Even though I'm perfectly aware that I know that's what a motorcycle will do when it hits a solid object, it just takes on a whole nother...
Yeah, I'm sure even more so than when it happens to you, to watching it happen to somebody that's so dear to you.
Yeah. And then another part of it is to, I had some conversations following that with Joey, because I want to respect him. I want to respect that he's a young man coming into his own, got to find out who he is. And, for me, finding a balance and where do I allow him to grow into who he's going to be as a man and not still try and ban him from doing things, I guess. Even though he's moved out, so it's not like we can ban him. But anyway, that was kind of part of the realization as well, is realizing my own hypocrisy and having conversations with my kids that two-wheeled vehicles are very dangerous, and this house is no longer going to
Yeah. So
buy them or ride them. And then I'm still riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just got done with it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, what about turtles? What got you in that game?
So I've been in exotic animals as long as I can remember. So I grew up in what we called the concrete jungle at the time. So I grew up 30 miles east of Los Angeles during the 80s. Very poor and just, I didn't know anything beyond, my few square miles of my neighborhood I lived in. So growing up that way, I don't know if you remember, because we're close to the same age, a magazine they used to give elementary school kids in school called Ranger Rick. Do you remember those? I used to look at Ranger Rick and I would see these animals from exotic, far off places that I was never going to get to. So I was always interested as a young child. I wasn't allowed to keep animals. My parents saw those things as frivolous, right? Oh, animals, that's just more stuff to take
Like even
care of.
dogs and stuff and cats?
We did growing up. But yeah, as soon as I moved out, I was always more fascinated by birds and reptiles. So I just made my own zoo.
How many turtles you got? Tortoises, right? That's just...
Tortoises and box turtles. So
Okay.
I keep them both. I would say, if I had to take a guess, maybe like 30.
Okay. Oh, wow. And when you had alligators, it was all alligators or crocodiles too?
Cayman.
Cayman.
Yeah.
No, what's cayman?
A cayman is a South American alligator.
Oh, okay. All right. Do people keep crocodiles too?
They do. The problem with crocodiles, though, is they're just very expensive. I can't think of many animals, maybe perhaps a lion or a tiger, that would be a more expensive pet to keep, but just their housing, their care. So to answer your question, some people do, but it's very uncommon. And typically when you see somebody keeping adult crocodiles, they've turned their backyard into a pool and,
Stupid question. What's more dangerous, a crocodile or alligator? Are they both about the same?
I don't know. It's like, what's more dangerous, death by car accident or death by decapitation?
Hey,
They're both death.
I told you it was a stupid question when I was curious, especially when I started thinking about people having them for pets, which they're never safe pets. I've watched enough YouTube to know. So what do you do when you decide to get rid of an alligator? I mean, do you turn it loose? Do you sell it? The zoo? What?
So it's very hard to get a zoo to take an animal. Sometimes they will, but what's more common and what I did is I gave my animals to a private zoo. I don't know if you've ever been through like one of those drive-in zoos, or a lot of times people with private zoos, they charge admissions, and schools will do field trips and they'll educate about the animals. So I gave them to a private zoo down in Lake Jackson who did exactly that. They were into educating, taking animals into schools and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So,
all right. I imagine releasing an alligator that you raised into the wild, is it like if you were to release any other, even though it's not tame, does it lose its wildness? Can it adapt again? Do you know?
well, first off, it would be illegal to release a crocodile or
Anywhere.
a caiman because they're non-native. You can't.
Yeah.
Wildlife laws prohibit that type of stuff, so you couldn't do it. But hypothetically, if it weren't against the law and somebody were to do it, caiman or crocodiles, they wouldn't survive our winters, or it'd be highly unlikely that they would.
Yeah. But even an alligator, I wonder, does it lose, if it's never known the wild, I
I
wonder
don't
if it
think they
adapts
ever
quick.
get tame. and I don't know where this video is going to get posted, but I feel like these animal lovers may go crazy. Here's my opinion, right? As somebody who's kept exotic animals for over 20 years and well connected with people that keep really exotic stuff, is I think it's a mistake to take a animal like a tiger, a lion, a alligator, and because it hasn't bit you yet, assume that he has some level of tameness. Things often don't end well.
Yeah.
Usually they end with people being injured as a result.
Yeah, I think I was thinking more in terms of like you take an animal and you raise it. Does it remember how to? I mean, since it's never lived in the wild, can it just go live in the wild, or is it going to end up, dying? Because you know what I mean. I think we had a raccoon when I was a kid. Actually, my older brother had a raccoon, and it actually got loose. But I was always curious, could it survive in the wild? Because it's been,
Domesticated.
Domesticated.
Will allow domesticized.
Domesticized. I'm not beyond rednecking words. So, well, cool, man. Well, let's pray and then let's dig in a little further.
All right.
All right, Father, thank you for Justin, Lord. Thank you for our decade-long friendship, Lord. Thank you for bringing him to this church. Thank you for bringing him into my life, and thank you for this conversation. And I just ask, Lord, that you would be with us and help us to be present with you and with one another. And thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So what's life like for you these days?
It's mostly chaotic, but it's chaotic with a purpose. It's chaotic with direction. I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean my days in my life stay pretty well regimented and scheduled out. Due to work, business, family, all that stuff. From pretty much
Are you a
5 a.m.
regimented?
to 7 p.m., it's just go time, 6 days a week.
Yeah, you a regimented person?
I am now. I wouldn't say that I'm regimented naturally, but as I've gotten older and my responsibilities have increased, I've had to learn to be that way just to manage all these balls in the air.
Yeah. And so you're the owner of a roofing business?
Yes.
Yeah, and going on a few years now?
Yeah. I think next year we'll be going into our 3rd year.
Yeah, that's great, man. Especially, kind of rewinding a little bit where some of the things you've gone through. I mean, I look outside looking in. You can correct me if I'm wrong as you kind of delve into your story, wherever you want to go with that. But like, I look at you and I just see how blessed you've been. For you spent some time in prison and stuff like that, and just for you coming out of that and not only, and I know. The only type of success isn't business and worldly success, but just seeing you succeed in that area, and thrive in that area, I think is really cool. So
Thank you.
yeah. Well, you have had quite the journey. When I was thinking about it and thinking about this conversation, man, I was like, where do I begin? You were talking about watching Ariel's podcast and learning so much about her. There's a lot that I know about you. A lot of things here and there, I don't know how deep we've gone on each of those things, but just knowing you over the 10 years and lunches and conversations that we've had, I know you've got several chapters to your book. Well, let's just rewind. Let's just start back. You mentioned you grew up in California.
Yes.
Yeah. How many siblings?
So I've got two sisters and 2 brothers, all half siblings. Although we don't identify as half siblings, we're brothers or sisters. I have two younger brothers and I have two older sisters.
Okay. Two younger brothers and two older sisters.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't think I knew that. I think, is Chantel the only one I've met?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are they in California, the rest of them?
So my sister Misty, I believe she's back in Hawaii right now, but she could still be in California. I know her and her husband, they do some traveling back and forth. So my sister Misty actually grew up in Hawaii. So she has a lot of her friends and extended family that she grew up close with. But her husband, because of his career, often they move him around, and so
Yeah.
they might be in California, they could be in Utah for a couple of years, back to Hawaii,
Yeah.
which is why you've never met her.
Okay. Well, you've, speaking of, I realize when I'm about to say this that it's not Hawaii. It's far from Hawaii. But you've got some Samoan in your blood, right?
Yes,
Yeah. What side of the family?
my mom's side.
Your mom. Okay. Is she Samoan?
She is.
Or is she part Samoan or
My mom's full Samoan.
full Samoan?
Yep.
Wow. Have you been to the Samoan Islands?
So I have, yeah, as a little kid. So you don't get to experience too much. I don't have a whole lot of memories of it, but yeah, not since I was a child.
Well, that's cool. So you said you grew up poor. I grew up poor too, but I'd only been to Arkansas until the 12th grade.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me. I felt like I was out of the country. That was awesome. So you don't really remember much about it?
No.
Have you been to Hawaii?
I have.
You have as an adult or?
Probably the last time I went was a preteen.
Okay. All right. So you got memories of it? Mm-hmm. That's cool. I want to go to Hawaii. Courtney, it's not that she don't want to go. She's got other places, she says, ahead on her list. So I don't know if I'm going to make it there or not. Eventually, maybe you and I need to go. So what was life like growing up?
You know, it was, hindsight's always 20/20. When I was growing up, I didn't realize that we were actually less than poor. We lived in poverty on welfare and food stamps and Section 8 housing and the projects and the whole 9 yards. But that was my frame of reference, you understand?
Yeah.
I mean, living in the projects, it's just miles and miles of apartment complexes with people who are living very much the same circumstances that you are. So it doesn't seem that unusual to wear hand-me-downs when everybody else in my apartment complex also wears hand-me-downs. So yeah, I didn't know. I lived a life and, playing freeze tag outside and dodgeball and all these sorts of things young people were doing in the 80s. And I never knew. I never knew I was poor. I knew I got teased a lot because I didn't have the newest stuff, and a lot of my stuff was secondhand, and things like that. Kids can be cruel. Kids can be cruel, and they very much were so to me. Because even for where I lived, I was considered the poorest kid, if that makes any sense. But my mom did the best she can for what she could, and there were a lot of years that I did resent her. Why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do it that way? How could you put your kids through these sorts of things, right? And the older I've gotten and my kids and being a parent and mistakes I've made and things I don't want hold, because I've done shameful stuff too. I think we all have. And, that's not who I am. I don't want that stuff held against me. So, had to release it.
That's cool. That's cool. So you and your mother have a good relationship?
We do. Now we do.
Yeah. Was there some forgiveness that had to take place, or just some working through some things on your part, or?
Yeah, a lot of things, So I want to talk a little bit about trauma, right? So we hear this word trauma, and I think these days, collectively, as a culture, as a people here in the United States, I think we have a better idea of what traumas are than we did, say, 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, man, I agree.
And looking back, even 10 years ago, if you would have told me, you know, I'm this way because I deal with trauma and I don't know how to behave or how to deal with certain situations as a result of these traumas that I've endured, I would probably tell somebody giving me that information that that was probably just justification for acting bad or not doing the right thing, and they should take more responsibility for their actions. And that's a standard I even held myself to. As you said, I've been to prison, and I've never said I didn't do it. I did everything the state accused me of, and they did what they needed to do and what they should have done.
Yeah.
And so I hold myself to that same standard. Well, as I've come to understand myself and be able to work through some of the crazy that's been my life and maybe my first half of it, yeah, it definitely has had an impact. And things like with my mom specifically is, just like Elsa, right? You just got to let it go. I think we all need to. And what I would tell anybody and what I would tell myself if I were talking to 30-year-old Justin is, man, the quicker you can make your peace with things and you can let them go and you can accept whatever you're dealing with. Your boss talked bad to you, some guy cut you off on the freeway. Just make your peace and let go of it as fast as you possibly can, because just holding on to all that stuff, it doesn't do anything productive or good for you.
Yeah, that's good, Justin. Was your dad in the picture?
He wasn't until my teen years, not by any fault of his own. So my mother actually kidnapped me.
Okay.
This took place
So you
in
were in his
93.
custody?
I was.
How old were you?
I was 3 years old.
Okay.
And so my mom kidnapped me from my dad. Things were a lot different as far as custody and courts and what have you back then. But yeah, my dad did have custody of me. My mom did some things to get it arranged to where she would have possession of me. And she already had a flight lined up, jumped straight on a plane here in Houston and flew to LA. And my dad came back the next day, wherever my mom was staying, to pick me up like they had previously arranged. And I was just gone. And this is the early 80s, right? So there's no Facebook, Instagram, call somebody else that knows them.
Yeah.
If you were in
there
California, you
weren't
might
cell
as well be
phones.
in Australia.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. Don't get me started on serial killers and all that kind of stuff. One, not having DNA evidence, but then, like you said, there's a lot less ways to track even your neighbor or your kid. It's crazy to think how we just ran the streets and your parents just waited for you to come home at night.
Yeah.
When the evening came. But yeah, man, that's wild. So how did he find you?
So I actually found him. As you know, I have a pretty...
Okay, so you were gone. You were just gone because there was no way to contact you.
Well, so it wasn't until I was a teenager that I got in contact with my dad.
Okay.
So I was led to believe some things that weren't true. And I don't want to get too much into it, not because of me, but because my relationship with my mom's different these days than it was. So I don't want to say anything that
no, that's fair. I mean, I
call
totally get
anybody's
that.
business out.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
So anyway, yeah, we end up as a teenager, I get back in contact with my dad. He tells me that he had been looking for me for years and years. Funny story he tells me, going back to the Samoan thing. So my dad, and this story was confirmed by other family members once I got in touch with them and my dad, that my dad sold his only possession, which was a pickup truck that he owned in the 80s. The only thing he had of value. And he knew my mom had bounced to California, and he didn't know any of my family or anything about them. And he thought he was just going to fly to California, get me kind of in an area where he could remove me and jump back on a plane and come back to Texas. He told me when he got to my grandparents' house, my mom comes from a family of 12 brothers and sisters. All of my uncles look at like what you typically think of when you think of Samoans.
Big dudes.
Yeah, there's 10 of the rocks in this living room.
Yeah.
And so he told me in years later that he knew as soon as he walked into my grandparents' house, there was no way he'd be able to walk out of there with me. So he kind of had to give it up. But, he had pictures of me in his house. Like he had never stopped looking for me or hope, his wife, when I had gotten in contact with me, was showing me stuff where they had taken out ads in newspapers in California. Because back then in the 80s, that would have been how you tracked somebody down, or one of the ways, because you were limited. So yeah, that's where our relationship starts. And he came into my life at that point and was a good father to me.
Yeah, good. So ever since then, he's been around. And that was late teenagers or what? Teenage?
13, 14.
13, 14. Okay. All right. Well, very cool. So I guess you already had some experience in Houston. So y'all both between Houston and California or something? Was he from Houston or something?
So we were already living up in Minnesota at that time. So I was coming down here from Minneapolis to see my dad. And, I continued throughout my teen years. At one point, my dad offered to buy me a Jeep, which was like super cool because my parents in Minnesota, like, they weren't going to get me a car. I'm a teenager at this point, right? High school. And my dad's talking about taking over a business in San Antonio. And he says, it's all hill country out there. I'll get you a Jeep if you move out here and you can just go play in the hill country with it. I didn't take him up on his offer. As attractive as it was, I was a teenager. I had my friends, my school, my athletics.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to trade it for a Jeep.
Yeah. I remember one time you telling me that you had some experience in the Mormon church.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what chapter that is. I may have jumped backwards or forwards. I don't know.
So, Samoans are very Mormon.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of those Pacific Islands are. So Mormons went around converting everybody like the Catholics did, just maybe not necessarily on the scale that the Catholics were able to do. But yeah, on those Pacific Islands, you will find some Catholicism out there, but I would definitely, the number one religion on those Pacific Islands is going to be Mormonism.
Wow,
I would say the second is probably going to be Jehovah's Witness.
Wow. Yeah, well, both of those groups definitely evangelize. I just didn't know they were taking off to the islands like that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I know you go, even like Seventh-day Adventists and stuff. Like in Africa, there's all different types of denominations, just like over here. But I had no idea that so many Samoans were Mormon.
So they're a very faithful.
So you kind of grew up Mormon.
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was raised and baptized. As a matter of fact, on the Samoan flag, it says in Samoan, in Samoa, God is first.
Okay.
It says, if you look at the American Samoa flag, it says it on there. That's what it says.
So how'd you get out of Mormonism?
I never really believed it.
Yeah. Okay.
I never really
More like
believed
tradition,
it.
family thing.
Yeah, it was tradition, and everybody in my family was Mormon. Like my uncles or elders. Those are the guys that pedal around on the bicycles. They call them elders in the church. Church every Sunday. We were deep in church, So all Mormon churches have gymnasiums in them. Some have swimming pools in them.
Wow.
Some have 2 full-court basketball courts in their gymnasium.
Wow.
I mean, you see when you drive by a Mormon church, they're big structures. So, back then, all we really went around was Mormons. Like, I don't know if it was intentional. I suspect it could have been. But all almost on a nightly basis, we were all meeting at church, all the families, all the
Yeah.
kids are getting together, husbands are playing basketball, wives are doing whatever wives do, kids are running around crazy, and everybody's up at the church and we're playing basketball, volleyball, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the extent of Mormon I grew up.
Was there an awareness? Was there an awareness that that many other Protestants considered it a cult?
No.
Then?
I would say I didn't even start encountering that till maybe high school age. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact
was
that
curious how
I was
much
kind of
your average
secluded
Mormon- yeah.
from, I didn't know any Methodists, Adventists, evangelicals. I didn't even
Yeah,
know
yeah.
those were words.
Yeah. I'm curious how much with the average Mormon. I'm sure they've got to know. Probably most of them are aware. I would assume, but I'm not positive about that. What was a big turning point in your life with finding Christ and that journey? You know.
Man, going to prison. You know what? So we use terms like finding Christ. I never lost him. You know, through all those years of just sin and darkness, because that's what it was, right? I wasn't just not walking in faith. I was a demon, right? And I don't mean that in the sense like
Right.
somebody exorcised
Yeah.
me, but
yeah.
But I don't know. You know, I guess it's something I've always known, right? In my hearts of hearts, maybe we could even call it instinct, right? Like I know that Jesus Christ died for my sins. I know that God created us with a purpose. And then I just kind of left it there, right?
Yeah.
And I would say definitely going to prison was really the catalyst of that would produce the change in my life that we're still seeing.
Now, were you in prison twice?
I was.
You was twice. All right. Just back up because I was around the second time you went to prison. When was the first?
The first time was I was in prison from 2000 to mid 2005.
Okay. Do you mind saying what for? Or?
So the charges I pled out to were aggravated robbery and aggravated kidnapping. For you or anybody not familiar, just the term aggravated, when you hear that attached to a charge, typically usually means that a weapon was involved. But I was really living a whole criminal lifestyle, myself and other individuals I was around, of pretty much any type of criminal activity you would associate that goes on in the streets around drugs, money, gangs, this sort of stuff. So it's really a whole bunch of it going on for a period of years. And because there's a whole...
Is this Houston or California?
This is actually Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay.
Because I'm going to use the word organization, but I don't mean organization like in the sense of the mob. I just mean a bunch of individuals that are kind of criminally connected doing various criminal activities. And this goes on for a period of years. You know, they always get you. I don't care how smart you are, how much money you have. If you keep doing it, it's just, you know, how statistics works. Eventually your number will come up. So my number comes up out of all of the stuff that I had been doing and I'd been accused of. They just lump it all in as a plea bargain. And I plead out to one count of aggravated robbery, which is a robbery with a firearm during the commission of it, and one count of kidnapping. I think in most states, because you know laws, they vary a little bit state to state, but I think in most states, anytime you hold somebody against their will, stay here, Scott, I've kidnapped you. So in commission of robberies and things like that. But at any rate, so I take this plea bargain. They give me 7 years. which was really a sweetheart of the deal at the time. I'm 19 years old. I start with state cases and federal cases, and both of them are life. 19 years old, life from the state, life from the feds. Kind of how deep I dug myself into. But yeah, that was the first time that I'd been to prison. That's what I ended up going there for.
Yeah. So you're there for 7 years?
Yeah.
So
No, I was there for 5.5.
5.5. Okay. Yeah. And so the first time or the second time that God kind of shook you?
I think both. It's just the first time it wasn't hard enough. Because I can recall being in prison and it not being shock value at all. It not even causing any stirring in my heart, right? At this point in life, I look at it, it's just a downside, like maybe a day trader may look at a bad trade where he lost money or that was a downside, is that's the cost of doing business. Well, to a career criminal, that's how they look at jail is, it's just a downside of easy money. And then I do what I got to do and I come out, same thing. Well, that was the same attitude I had while I was in prison, is set my time out, then I get out and game on. Somewhere in that process, maybe 3 or 4 years into doing my time, I kind of had an attitude shift. But it wasn't the attitude shift I really needed. It was a shift in the right direction for sure.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't living right. I still didn't have my heart right. I'm still committing crimes. I'm just, instead of doing full takedown style robberies, now I'm fighting in bar parking lots with guys, right? So I'm still doing criminal activity. It's just not the stuff that's going to send me back to prison. And then I go along for a number of years doing good. And then next case, and this is the second time that I go away. But this time it's a lot different. I'm pretty sure I've told you this or you've heard this before. But I really had voices speaking to me in that holding cell in Montgomery County Jail. They weren't audible voices. They were voices I could only hear in my heart and in my head.
This is the second time?
Yes, this is the second time. So I hear this voice speaks to me in this cell. And it's telling me that you've done some really serious stuff. You probably are going away. And that's just what you have to do. You did what you did. Now you got to face the music type of deal. But the old Justin needs to be dead. That way of doing things needs to be done. The voice tells me I need to hit my knees right now in this cell. And I need to ask for forgiveness. I need to offer repentance. And I need that guy that Justin has been up to this day. He needs to go away. As soon as that voice speaks to me, another voice speaks to me. And I know sometimes as believers, we're kind of all over the place in what we think. Do we believe in deliverance spiritual? Do we not? All this kind of stuff. This is just my story. But another voice speaks to me, and it was the voice of the enemy, right? It's one of discouragement, of despair. Oh, you didn't know God 10 minutes ago, and this and that. And that day, that evening in that jail cell, regrettably, I didn't hit my knees. But I knew that the first voice that spoke to me was the voice of truth, and that was the direction I needed to start heading in. Then another miraculous thing happened, and I don't use the term miraculously lightly. You couldn't convince me that this wasn't a miracle. I get a $50,000 bond. And I know we see a lot of stuff in the media, especially if you live in Montgomery County, and then you see what Harris County does and all this kind of stuff. So $50,000 now sounds like a high bond, because you can watch people who've been charged with very vile crimes get out of jail for literally $100 bill. But $50,000 for me was unheard of All right. I mean, here I am. I've got this FBI gang file on me. You get an FBI gang file on you when you're part of an organization that Department of Homeland Security deems domestic terrorists. So I just got all this stuff going on. I've jumped bonds. I'm a confirmed gang member. All this stuff. But it's been many years since I've been this guy already. Yeah, I've caught a new charge, but for the most part, I'm a productive guy. But that stuff sticks with you.
Yeah.
So they take one look at that, and the judge sets a $50,000 bond for me, and I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. Because for $50,000, you only have to put up 10% of a bond to get released. Okay. And that's non-returnable, of course. That's $5,000 I had to put down that I never got back. I bond out. And during this time that I'm on bond, this is the time we meet. But yeah, I seek out a church. I completely start changing my life. I start distancing myself from people that aren't headed the direction I want to be headed in, if that makes any sense.
You got
it's a process. I hear a lot of stories, and I love hearing overcomer stories. Yeah. I love hearing stories that just start in just not great places and just these glorious stories, right? How people have overcome and gotten victory over things in their life. And a lot of times these stories I hear are, they're like Apostle Paul experiences, right? They're struck off the horse and they just, it was good after that. For me, at that point, things start changing. But for them couple of years in there, man, almost on a weekly basis, it almost seemed like one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did get discouraged, but never enough to just like fully go back. Like, screw this, let's get high and go to a strip joint and, do all this godless stuff. That was never an option, but definitely it was a journey. And, I end up going to prison. I'm free for a couple of years. And then I just meet the end of the road. I end up going to prison. I'm already a member of this church at this time. And I go in there for a couple of years. One thing I wish that more people knew about in there and out here is they got these programs. Texas Department of Criminal Justice has this program. It's a faith-based program where you're in a housing unit with other guys that are going the same direction you are, and that's trying to draw near to the Lord. Who are we? What is our role here? Why did he send us? Just trying to make sense of it, because a lot of us in there, we don't usually come from backgrounds where we were taught those things or we were raised a certain way. So we're starting kind of at square one in there together. And it's a beautiful, beautiful program. So I got to spend my entire time in that, made things very easy, or as easy as they could be for being away from your family and the things you love, people you love, and all that. And that's kind of my story, how I came to faith.
I remember you
trying to keep the short version, right? Because I could go on forever about it.
You and I pen palled a little bit during your time in prison, and I remember you sharing some about the programs and some of the reading you were doing and stuff like that. So, very cool. And then you got out. I remember it was Sonia and Nana that took you in, right? And you had to live there. What do you call it, on probation or whatever?
Parole.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long was that? You could only go so far?
So,
or you had to stay inside for a while.
I was on house arrest for like 16 or 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Tough time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it beats prison. So there's that. And then there's also, I did it, right? I can't complain. I did what I did. I got what I got, and I feel like it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, yeah, man. But people, I like what you said though about, you hear all these stories of just transformation and they never go back. It happens. Sometimes in some cases, I don't think people are telling the full story. I do believe. Don't get me wrong. I believe in deliverance. I believe in I believe in radical transformation. But it's kind of like, it reminds me to relate it to church. I've read a lot of church books and even small church books, and one thing that some of the successful church books don't tell you is all the struggles that they went through. They tell you, they give you the kind of the cookie cutter, this is how we did it and God was so good or whatever, but they don't tell you all the bumps in the road and the struggles and stuff like that. And that's why I think authenticity is so important, because when we come to Christ, man, I think more people need to hear that there's still bumps in the road, and especially if we've had if we've had it rough before, that's, there's a lot there to renew, yeah, and it's not easy. And sometimes we fall off the horse and
No, I agree with you, and yeah, I'm a pretty transparent guy, right? I just how I think it, it's how I say it, and that's just kind of the way it is. And I like everything you just said there about sometimes people we can candy coat things, and what was the walk really like. For me, one of the reasons, because I've often gotten feedback from people when I've talked about prisons or addictions or violence or all these things, that I've often had people communicate to me that, in one form or fashion or another, that they just can't imagine being so upfront honest with pulling skeletons out of the closet and just letting people see them. And I can appreciate that. I respect that. When it comes to me, the reason I'm so willing to be an open book is because I want others to see what God's done for me.
yeah,
Justin's done none of this.
yeah.
I truly haven't.
Yeah.
I don't know how I ended up so lucky. That's the truth of it. I mean, sure, I've worked hard. Sure, I've been dedicated. Things have happened to get me where I am, but there's plenty of people that work hard that never achieve what I have.
Yeah.
So there definitely is some luck that came into play there. But at any rate, if I were to tell somebody my story, the takeaway I'd be looking at them to take away is, man, that dude's had it really bad. That guy got it bad at every turn. And look what he did. Look what he did. In more of a spiritual context, I know you know this. I know most of us in this room on a Sunday know this, but this is the thing the Father's willing to give all of us, right? He wants all of it. And not to go off into prosperity gospel, you can't pray your way into a mansion, to be clear. You can pray and then by happenstance get a mansion, but just because you prayed for one, God isn't going to give you one. Anybody who's going through something, and I think sometimes it's relative when we're going through things. Maybe it's a death in the family, maybe it's a sick spouse, maybe it's infidelity, maybe it's financial ruin. I don't know. We always feel like that's the worst thing. Nobody's ever had it worse. This is insurmountable.
Yeah.
And I've felt like that too. And I've truly lived through things where I'm like staring at a mountain, like I'll never get over this.
Yeah.
That's what's so good about the Lord we serve, right?
Yeah.
Is I don't need the mountain. I don't need you. I don't need to go over the mountain. Just help me. Help me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I just I'm so transparent with, and it is, I hope somebody can get value out of all those years I've lost. I hope somebody can get some value out of it.
Yeah, that's good, man. And God's grace is continual. I think about our old, I said our because Sean shared the same pastor I did. He passed away. He's gone to be with the Lord now, but he had this wonderful testimony that we loved hearing on his on the church website. He had his mugshot from when he was 19 years old, and so we would have these special services sometimes where we would invite people, maybe have like a festival or something like that, and he would share his testimony. And then I remember us all being encouraged to share. That was the first time I wrote down my testimony, But then he got into some marital problems and things went downhill. The church fell apart. He fell out of ministry, never got back into ministry. Was I think he got remarried and found some happiness, but also there's some anger there and stuff like that. And then he got into a golf cart accident and died.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was very, very tragic. But I remember thinking during all that, I was like, man, I think that was the first time I came to the realization that like your testimony is not a one-time thing. We like to talk about this conversion experience or whatever that we have, and that's awesome. People need to hear that story, but sometimes even with me, I wasn't converted in 2004, but God did a big work in my life. But people need to hear about my screw up since then too, or I still needed God's grace. You know what I mean? And that's why I appreciate, I won't go into all the details and stuff, but you opened up to us in the men's group a few weeks ago and stuff like that. I think I'm thankful when we can have that brotherhood and share that with one another, because as soon as you did that, somebody else opened up too. That's the power of.
That was great. That was powerful. That filled my heart up to be part of that. And that's my intention, So what we saw on that Saturday is exactly why I just lay it out there, is we could see what that inspired in another individual. I was able to get something off his conscience in a safe place, in a place where we can measure it through a filter of faith and love on each other, kick some ideas around, support each other. I think that's imperative. And that's what I really like about our men's group, is I know we talk about a lot of things, and usually there's kind of an overall topic or something to be discussed. But, just because we're believers, just because we've been sanctified, doesn't mean we're not dealing with life.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of life going on here.
Amen.
And brothers and sisters in this church, I like the idea that this is a safe place where people can go and feel not like it's going to become a gossip mill if I tell Scott this, if I tell Courtney this, and it's just a safe, supportive place.
Podcast.
Yeah, or tell everybody on the podcast.
Just kidding.
No, it's really great, and going back to what we were talking about before, I think sometimes as believers, I think we can have a tendency to look at the Lord as Santa Claus, right? We just make a list. Hey, Lord, deliver me from this and that.
Yeah.
And I sure would like that raise at work. And that neighbor that plays loud music, if you could make him go away, that'd be great too. That's just, I think a lot of people kind of fall into that boat. But no, the deal of it is I'll tell you, believers, lifelong believers that have it together on the surface, sometimes they gamble away the kids' college fund. Sometimes they're drinking, sometimes they're hooked on prescription drugs. Because this is real life, and that's what's going on here in real life. And just having that place, like I said, that we can come to, be loved on, supported on, that's great, because I feel like that's not something that everybody has. And going back to big church, little church. And I don't want to bash big churches or elevate little churches, because I think it really comes down to the individual. And I will say, for me, personally, that's what I like about small church. 'Cause I've been to big churches, and I've been to the Ark and Church Project and Osteen's church down there too. And, week to week, I don't know this guy. I don't
Right,
you
right.
know.
Yeah.
But here, I know every single one of you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I think about this may be a little judgmental, I don't know, but sometimes when I hear, we're in the day and age, and we do it too. We post our, Caleb takes pictures and all that kind of stuff. Part of it's so him and Daxton can enjoy their art form and Warren too. But it also documents our service, and shows people our church and stuff like that. But I was saying, in just the era of church marketing and stuff like that, man, like sometimes every week was the most amazing service, oh, God showed up this week, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, church was meh meh today, but we got together, and the Lord was here or whatnot. But I guess I say that just because life is like that. I really value authenticity. And maybe since I started, since I was the one who started this church, maybe it's a reflection. So I am happy when I see that we've become that authentic church where we can be real. That's actually, this podcast is really Sean's brainchild. That's what I love about it. It's just another outlet for us to be real, talk about what the Lord has done, but also talk about why we need the Lord, you know what I mean? And our shortcomings and our failures. And like you said, by being vulnerable and going there, not only does it bless us, but it blesses, like Timothy, my friend Timothy with his ministry, Project Samuel, he say we minister 360. And, he says we minister the whole child, mind, body, and spirit. But he used to say, he may still say this, he would say it's when you do missions, you're ministering to the people over there, you're ministering to yourself, and you're ministering to people back home. And that's what I see, like, doing this, You're ministering to me, you're ministering to yourself, and you're ministering to the people that are watching. And so that's why I like, having these things. So with that said, you've shared a lot of wisdom already, but
Do you think so? Hey, funny thing, when you asked me to come on here, I was like, what could I possibly have of value to entertain these viewers? I look at myself as a pretty boring guy, right? So I kind of highlight on little situations that were happening in my teens and my 20s. And, probably maybe people viewing this right now, or maybe you sitting here right now and be like, what is this guy talking about? It sounds like his life's been nonstop action-packed. Well, yeah, like 20 years ago, right? Like,
you're like, I'm just
right. I'm a dad. I go home, I turn on the TV.
Like 7 years.
Right. Sometimes I can get my wife to make me some popcorn. Yeah, I'm not a very exciting guy. So when I think about, because I watch a lot of podcasts, right? And I listen to a lot of the big guys and stuff, and I listen to those interviews, and they all have like these exciting stories and been everywhere in the world 3 times and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I work and I go home and I go to church. And the most exciting thing in my life is sometimes I dig up eggs that tortoises have laid to put them in an incubator. Like, it's not going to hold, my life story is not going to hold anybody's attention for an hour.
Yeah, no, I think you've held our attention, Justin. I think you underplay yourself. What's one piece of wisdom?
Man, I don't know. It's hard to just pick one. Accept life on life's terms.
Okay. That's good. Well, I'm gonna end with this. I know you said no more bikes. Harley or street bike? Well, I guess a Harley is a street bike, right? Educate me.
Well, typically when you say street bike, you mean things that aren't Harleys. But
Yeah.
I've had them both, street bikes and Harleys.
Okay. You prefer street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about dirt bikes?
I like dirt bikes a lot too.
You do? Yeah. Have you had dirt bikes recently?
I wouldn't say recently. So much like one of my kids got me off of street motorcycles due to an accident, another kid got all of our dirt bikes sold off because he wrecked one, broke his elbow, and it just
Yeah.
wasn't a good situation.
Yeah. I never rode dirt bikes, but I had a lot of my friends in the neighborhood did, and they spent a lot of times running from the cops because they
Yeah.
weren't supposed to be riding them on the streets. And we had all these trails. We had a lot of woods in our neighborhood and stuff, and so they would lose the cops in the woods and in Greens Bio and stuff like that. Beach or mountains?
Mountains,
Mountains. Early bird or night owl?
early bird.
Favorite thing to grow in your garden?
Probably peppers.
Peppers.
Yeah.
Are you hot? You like spicy?
I like spicy, but I like all kinds of peppers.
Yeah.
Bell peppers, snacking peppers, lunchbox peppers, banana peppers,
Yeah. Drink of choice?
water.
Water. Really? Yeah, I like water too. Country music or classic rock?
Classic rock.
Classic rock. You like country?
I do. I like older country.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're Caucasian or most of your band is Caucasian and you play instruments and you sing music that doesn't really fall solidly into another genre, they just lump you in with country. But I like the old country that isn't that stuff.
Yeah. No, I was for the longest time I was pre-2000s. That's why I say a pre-2000s country because I liked the 90s, I liked 80s, and I love 70s and but here recently, probably thanks to Spotify that, those streaming platforms or whatever, there's all these throwback country bands
Yeah.
that kind of throw back to the 70s, like,
Yeah.
country. I like
Yeah,
a
and
lot
that's
of it.
all the stuff I like. You know, I really don't like sappy songs about
Yeah.
the girl that got away and all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. And if I do, I'm going to listen to Motown. So I'm going to listen to Stevie Wonder. I'm going to listen to Smokey Robinson. I'm not going to listen to In Case You Didn't Know.
Have I sent you any AI Motown?
Uh-uh.
Oh, dude. Look out, you're gonna get annoyed. Especially because I'm a grunge era.
Yeah.
They've taken not just that era, but they've taken a lot of grunge and they turned it into Motown. And I don't know how they're doing it. It's a combination of AI. Do you know, Sean, do they have is there a musician actually? So how do they use that with AI?
So they actually lay the music and they'll use AI to either alter the voice
Okay.
or vice versa. They'll use AI to generate music and lay their own.
Yeah, because I need something to sell my wife on because she thinks she's just straight AI, and I was like, babe, no, this is talent here too. It's not just the AI.
100%.
But it is so good. Like these cover songs, usually I'm iffy on covers. Some are good, some are not. But man, every single one of these, if somebody like before AI just would have straight covered them, or if that was the original song, it was just so good. What's your favorite season?
The seasons that aren't summer.
Wrong state, buddy.
I know it. I know it.
We're about
I
to
know.
enter my favorite month, November.
Not so hot.
Yeah, November is my favorite because the weather's cooling down.
But it's not too cold yet.
What's that?
It's not too cold yet.
It's not too cold yet. You're right smack dab in the middle of the holidays. It's not so much Christmas I love. I love the outside of all the shopping and stuff. I hate all that stuff. Season should not be stressful. But the leading up to Christmas is my favorite season. Everything leading, it's kind of like the journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey getting there. So I love that. And then, especially when the Astros were all like World Series good and stuff, you had the Astros, Rockets, and, football and all that stuff was going on at the same time. So it's, yeah, and I just love fall colors and all that kind of stuff. What's something that always makes you laugh?
Cat Williams.
Cat Williams.
Yeah.
I'm ignorant. Who's that?
He's a comedian.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, dude, I'm done. That's all I got.
All right.